welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the Horror Master YouTube channel, and a very, very happy Halloween to everyone out there, guys. It's finally here, the most magical, most glorious, the most God-worthy yet bloody day of the year. But regardless, happy Halloween, guys. Hope you guys are gonna have a great Halloween. Hope you guys are staying safe with going trick or treating, going to parties, or whatever the hell, or watching horror movies like I'll probably do on Halloween night and day. But even if you're not watching any horror movies, but even say how celebrate Halloween, I hope you're still having a wonderful day. But regardless, we are unfortunately at the very end of the series, guys. So who would have thought that we would go this long? And like I said, my sanity has gone so crazy for this past series that I cannot thank you guys so much. And I mean it from the bottom of my black heart. Thank you guys so much for going through this entire journey from the beginning to the very end. And of course, you know, will I ever do this again next year? Who knows? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe next year might be more, I guess, prepared for this series. But regardless, I cannot thank you guys so much for watching all the videos, for sharing the videos, for subscribing to the channel, which by the time I recorded this video, we have already surpassed the 65 subscriber mark, which again, guys, thank you guys so much for all the support you guys have given me and for this series. But regardless, let's get into today's topic of discussion, being that it's the last day of the series and the only franchise we have yet to talk about. It was fitting that the last franchise of this series will have to be the entire Halloween franchise, guys. Yes, as you can see, I'm rocking my Michael Myers shirt, and of course, I have my good old Michael Myers Funko Pop, which I really love this Funko Pop so much, but that's a different story. But I had to get it because it's Michael Myers, for fuck's sake. I mean, it's one of the most famous slashers in horror next to Jason, Freddy Krueger or Chucky or somebody I'm not remembering. But regardless, it's Halloween. It's probably one of the most important films franchises in horror, because if it wasn't for this franchise, maybe a franchise like Friday the 13th would have never been developed, and maybe some other franchise I'm not talking about. But from a franchise that from the beginning wasn't really thought of as a brilliant idea, it became to this you know, amazing, most of the time, amazing films. When you have 13 films in your entire franchise, which I will also be talking about Halloween Kills. So, a bit of a spoiler alert when I talk about Halloween Kills, which I'm pretty sure everyone who's watching this video has already seen Halloween Kills. But if you have not yet seen Halloween Kills, go watch it. That way, I won't spoil you my critique or where I have the ranking. So, a bit of a spoiler warning for that. But Halloween is one of the most beloved franchises in horror. I mean, every year it's a tradition that I always watch a Halloween film, no matter it's from the original or one of the new ones. It has to be a Halloween film because it actually feels the Halloween spirit. But regardless, let's get into the ranking. We have 13 views we're going to talk about, so let's get into it and ending with a fucking bang. So, at number 13, at the bottom of the barrel, and I really mean the very deep, disgusting, agonizing bottom of the barrel, we have Halloween Resurrection. Right up the start. After the success of Halloween H2O, which was a huge kind of revitalized the franchise after what happened with the original six films, and then of course when you go from H2O to Resurrection, a lot of fans were like, "This is gonna be another classic banger film." Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, because when you kill Laurie at the beginning of the film, that's kind of like, what's the point of Michael kind of still being alive of some sort? Because the whole point of Michael Myers in this timeline was he wants to find his sister Laurie and kill her, what he couldn't do, of course, in the original Halloween and then Halloween Part 2. But when you have her being killed at the beginning of the film, and then have this, I'm forgetting his name, rapper, have like a TV mini web series, and have these kids being stuck in Michael Myers' house, and then they get to die kind of out of nowhere, like fast, 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 was kind of a bit of a meh for me. I mean, not to mention some of the cast from there. Well, of course, there was some cast from Scream, some of the cast from American Pie, but I feel that this film lost its touch once they killed Laurie at the beginning of the film, because I'm like, then what's the point of the movie continuing? It would have been better if Laurie would have still been alive to the entire film with being killed at the end of the film. Maybe also killing Michael, but of course we know Michael can't fucking die, or can he? But the most memorable parts I remember from the film are the beginning from from Michael Myers, King, Laurie, and of course the ending shot of the film where supposedly he was burned alive and killed, and you see that last scene of Michael opening his eyes with a jump scream. That's like the only thing I remember from the film. But you know, I'm not the biggest fan of it. I will watch it. Like it's one of those films I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna watch, but it's not the best. It's probably the worst Halloween film in my personal opinion. At number 12, we have Halloween 5: The Revenge of Michael Myers. The Revenge of Michael Myers is one of those weird films because it kind of made Jamie a mute after for God some reason, and of course I gotta say Tina, one of the most annoying characters in the entire franchise. A character that at the beginning of the film was made as a side character, but as you're going down the film, they kind of turn her into a main character. Not only that, but when you have Rachel killed, who quite frankly, is up there with Lorraine as one of the most famous last girls in horror history. When you have her being killed almost at the beginning of the film, and then you have Tina, this annoying little bitch, kind of being one of the main central characters of the film. It kind of doesn't make sense because I'm like, after Rachel surviving, of course, events of part 4, continuing to part 5, and the whole thing with Jamie, which and then they hold the connection with the Thorn trilogy, which that's kind of started in a way when the guy who portrays Michael Myers, which nothing against it, but he wasn't really the greatest Michael Myers. And I gotta say, that mask that he wears, one of the worst masks I've seen in the entire franchise. It just doesn't feel too Halloween-esque. That's the perfect way we're gonna say it. But it's one of those films, like I mentioned, all the Halloween films, they have their moments there and there, but I'm not saying I'm not gonna watch it because they they each have something that I do like from every film. But with Halloween 5, it's like kind of the same thing that there was Resurrection did years later. But I guess Halloween 5 kind of adds that thing with Jamie, which she can kind of feel what Michael feels, see what Michael sees, so they kind of have that kind of thorn thing. But regardless, Halloween 5 ranks up by number 12. At number 11, we have Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers. Now, originally, I was gonna add the director's cut and the theatrical cut separately, but I decided to kind of combine them and just talk about the entire film as a whole because, on paper, this film was one of the films that a lot of people really shit on for good reasons. But as I started watching the film, years has gone by, started watching the film, I began to realize that this film is a film that, you know, it could have been something great. It could have been something that the franchise would have ended with a bang. But of course, with the studio getting involved, with a whole bunch of legal shit going on, this kind of went up an attic. And of course, the one thing that I remember from the film, of course, is the infamous ending. Of course, you see Michael's mask on the floor, and you hear us screaming, which we later found out was Loomis is screaming from the director's cut. And you see the final shot of the pumpkin, and boom, just comes to life. That's probably one of the most famous endings of the entire franchise, in my opinion. But I gotta say that the kills in this film were bloody as hell. They were even better than in part 5. And of course, Paul Rudd, not the greatest in this film. Of course, it was very starting. I think this was the film that came out before Clueless or maybe after Clueless. I don't remember my timeline so well. But Halloween 6, for what it's worth, it's a great film. But like I said, not the most. I mean, then I say, the mask in that film was a bit better than the previous mask I've talked about. The kills were a bit more bloody, but regardless, it ranks at my number 11. At number 10, we have Halloween, the 2007 remake, of course, directed by Rob Zombie. Now, On paper, when you have Rob Zombie, who, of course, if you're a metalheads, you know him from his solo career and, of course, being White Zombie, when you have him in a franchise that you know it's going to print a lot of money, but you kind of know that Rob Zombie's previous films aren't really the greatest, being that he can produce, he can write, but in terms of directing was kind of iffy because this film, when I first saw it, you're talking about years ago, I really didn't get it. Why would they more tackle more on Michael Myers' childhood? Even though we know why he did the things he did, of course, from the original film. But the thing that the Halloween 2007 movie did was that half of the film was basically how Michael Myers became sort of Michael Myers from his childhood through the whole the psychiatric, hospital, being there with of course Loomis, and of course played by I remember his name, Alex, from of course Clockwork Orange, which amazing actor in his own right. But you know, Halloween 2007, like I said, the middle of the first half of the film, I kind of seem a bit pointless because we don't really need to know the backstory, how Michael Myers became Michael Myers, the kind of defects from the mystique of Michael Myers, because there's some stuff that really we don't need an explanation, makes them a bit more interesting and kind of keeps the mind going on theories and all that. But the other half of the film was it's like a whole completely different film where they kind of almost took things from the original film, of course, from the 78 film, but added different things to it, but almost did the exact same thing. And that's a perfect way I can describe it. Not one of my favorites, but still, it's a pretty good film. At number 9, we have Halloween Ends. This is the latest film from the franchise, and I want to give a shout out to my friend Alicia, which she and I saw the film together. And so, Halloween Ends, it was built as this epic conclusion to, of course, Lauren and Michael Myers, which, the final battle, everyone thought it's going to be one of the greatest endings to the franchise. One of them has to die, or both of them would have to die. And that was the mentality of me and my friend, of course, everyone else who saw the film, to the point that, of course, we bought tickets to see it premiere night, which we were hella excited. This has been the only Halloween film that I've seen in theaters, and I was like, you know what? Let's go all the way at it. So we go there and watch the film. And the film was a bit interesting because this takes place 4 years after the events of Halloween Kills in the timeline, which if y'all know, originally the three films, of course, being Halloween 2018, Halloween Ends, and Halloween Kills, were supposed to take place in one night, which Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills did that, and of course, Halloween Ends was supposed to be the epic conclusion of what happens in that one night. But of course, with the pandemic hitting, they had to change the script, they had to change a lot of stuff, so they came up with the movie that which we have seen. And at first, when we first saw it, I thought it was a great film because they kind of did something unique that no one expected when you have a character like Corey, which unfortunately was brain from the death of a child that he was babysitting, and the whole town begins to see him as this person, this kind of weirdo, and he begins to become an outcast. And of course, when one day he's in the catacombs or the sewer, he comes across Michael Myers, who has been hiding there for almost 4 years. Which I'm like, how the fuck haven't you not died already if you've been hiding there for 4 years? Then, for some weird reason, Michael let him live, which it's rare when you kind of that never happens. When Michael Myers lets you live, you gotta know there's something up to it. And the theories, me and my friend Alicia were beginning to make theories as the film was going on of what's gonna happen with Corey, why they added him to the story, and as the movie progressed, our theories kind of began to get debunked until the very end of the film. Which honestly, this film really didn't feel like a Halloween film because Michael Myers wasn't really at the majority of the entire film, even though you can see that with the same argument with part one, which he wasn't really as much on screen. But with Halloween Ends, they, like I said, they kind of put this as the epic battle between Laurie and Michael one on one for the last time, and it kind of ended on a bit of a whip, in my personal opinion, because, like I said, we were expecting something else. We got something different. And I've heard a lot of people, that this is probably the worst Halloween film of all time. I can see their arguments. I like it a bit better, maybe because I saw it premiere night, or saw it, seen it with my friend, and we were so excited to see the film that we just were blindsided from what we were seeing. After rewatching a couple of times, I kind of started seeing the problems a lot of people had on the film, and of course, I understand their points of views, but Halloween Ends wasn't really the way that I wish the franchise or this timeline would end. I wish it could have ended a bit better. It would have been better if Corey would have, for some reason, would have saved, Lori and the granddaughter, or maybe for some reason he survives and becomes the new Michael Myers or the new evil in like another time or some sort of. But regardless, this is gonna be the last Halloween film for a while, and wherever we get a new Halloween film, eventually we will. Probably not today or tomorrow, maybe 2, maybe 3 years from now. But regardless, it sits now at my number 9. At number 8, we have Halloween Kills. Now, Halloween Kills, the thing about Halloween Kills that I really like about Halloween, the movie, was that they kind of took the same thing that they did with Halloween 1 and 2. They continued the story after the events, of course, Halloween 2018. And this film is so crazy because now Tommy, which of course was in the original Halloween, begins to have this riot of people, of evil dies tonight, which a lot of people think that was like one of the worst things that they did in the franchise, which has its arguments. But with Halloween Kills, which, Alicia, if you're watching this and you told me this, that you like that better than the Halloween 2018, which I do see your point, but the thing about Kills is that I felt that, with the riots and some of the, of course, inmates who escaped when the bus crashed, kind of took a bit from the story, from that, thinking that he was Michael when they were chasing an innocent man, or a man that wasn't really Michael Myers. And of course, the ending where they tried to kill Michael. Then again, you can't kill the evil, or so we thought when Halloween Ends and how that ended. But it was bloody. It was bloodier than probably Halloween 2018. I'll give you that much. But you know, I wish it would have been better, and I wish it could have Halloween Ends could have continued right after Halloween Kills, and had the 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 story end there in one night. But Halloween Kills, great film. It's a film that I might recommend more to fans to give it a watch, because for a long time before Halloween Ends was released, people thought this was the worst Halloween film. Which, again, it's all about your perspective. At number 7, surprisingly, I have Halloween 2, the 1981 version. Of course, the same thing that kind of said about Halloween Kills kind of applies to Halloween 281, because, of course, Laurie, the majority of the film is based on the hospital, which Michael goes and finds Laurie. That's where we found out that Laurie is Michael Myers' younger sister, which originally, John Carpenter, Deborah Hill didn't want to put that idea in the film, which in hindsight they regretted eventually, that they kind of made Laurie, Michael Myers' sister. I kind of see that point, but Halloween 2 has the most, what's the proper I can say, has the most critical acclaim, because of course after the success of the first one, the second one has to be as good or even better than the original. It wasn't the case. It was still good. Some of the kills were kind of creative, but I do want to say that the mask in this film was kind of weird, even though it is the original mask that they used in part one. But of course, Deborah Hill had it under her bed, smoking a lot of weed, and of course, with all that moist under your bed, all those chemicals, the mask kind of, I don't want to say shrunk, but it changed in color, so that kind of took it away from, of course, the original mask from the first shot in the original film to this film, which Again, creative kills. Like I said, in the hospital, when you have a lot of weapons that you can use, pretty kind of weird way to use it. At number six, we have Halloween 2, the 2009 version. Now, I do believe that this Halloween film, from all the rest of the Halloween films, this is the most bloody Halloween film I think I've ever seen, because from the beginning with the dream sequence, which a lot of people really didn't like at the beginning of the film was a dream sequence. I personally liked them, and not to mention the whole thing with the white horse and the mother. Some people really didn't like it. I personally liked it because I felt that it kind of has this weird psychotic connection between Michael and Laurie, which eventually we kind of see in the end that Laurie was almost as crazy or even crazier than Michael. Maybe something genetic, maybe not. I don't know. But the whole dream sequence was kind of perfect because when I first saw the film, I was like, oh shit, she's gonna die already. And then boom, she wakes up. And of course, when Michael it's not really escapes, but it's still alive, starts begin to kill. The one thing I really didn't like about it is when you can actually hear him grunting like "Ugh, ugh, when he's killing the victims. I'm like, Michael's a silent killer when he really doesn't show any emotions. You just hear him breathe through the mask. And the mask, that's another thing that you kind of see his face when the whole thing about Michael Myers is that you don't see the man behind the mask. You only see it a couple of times. But Halloween 2, the 2009 version, regardless of what you think of Rob Zombie as a director, regardless of what you think of him as a writer, I thought it was a pretty good film. And I wish you could have continued this timeline, maybe like a Halloween 3. But then again, in that timeline, they actually kill Michael Myers, which again, I don't think they did, but you never know. Maybe they could come back to this timeline and make a Halloween 3 years later that Michael Myers is still alive and he's gonna go after Laurie, pretty much like like Resurrection, but without Laurie dying at the beginning. That's just a thought. Just a thought. At number five, we have Halloween 3, The Season of the Witch. For the longest time, this was considered the worst Halloween film in existence. After the either success or unsuccessful way of Halloween ends and the years have gone by, Season of the Witch has become a bit of a cult classic because it doesn't really involve Michael Myers, which originally, for all who don't know, the Halloween theme was supposed to be originally an anthology, of course, being part one, part two being one story ended, and then part three, part four being different kind of stories. So the concept of Halloween was supposed to be originally an anthology. But after Halloween 3 kind of flopped in theaters, they kind of moved away from the anthology. And when they made part 4, is when they brought Michael Myers back. But with Halloween 3, it has become a cult classic because even though there's no Michael Myers in the film, it's still a great Halloween film, regardless. Like I said, if this film was just in Season of the Witch, it would have regarded as probably one of the greatest horror films of that era. But since it has a Halloween title, it kind of got shit at the beginning. But like I said, of course, the commercial with the kids wearing the pumpkins and of course killing them and turning them into the mask and killing a lot of people was a bit of a weird concept. And the only time that we get a mention of Michael Myers was when the main protagonist, the guy, is kidnapped in a room by the main antagonist, and he has him play has him see TV and has the movie Halloween, and he just says Happy Halloween. And of course, the film is playing on the background, which I'm like, bit of a John Carpenter kind of thing. But regardless, it is a cult classic and a film that I really suggest any Halloween fan or any horror fan to go watch it. It is a great, great, great film. At number four, we have Halloween, the 2018 version, or Halloween 40 years later. I really enjoyed this film from the beginning sequence of the, I guess, the reporters going into the insane asylum and seeing Michael chained up, and one of the guy has the mask, and you just hear the inmates kind of go crazy, and Michael just standing there doing nothing, and of course escaping, and of course going after Lorraine and doing all the debauchery and killings, everything about this film. I felt was the most accurate, not the most accurate, but the best film in a long time that felt like an actual Halloween film. Because everything about it was great. Laurie's character was kind of a bit of iffy because she kind of became this paranoid individual, which regarding what happened in the events, of course, part one, it's understandable. But 2018 has become one of my favorite Halloween films in the longest time, in a film that I religiously go back and watch a lot, pretty much. At number three, we have Halloween H2O 20 years later. This is this is the first of film from the second timeline of the film, and a lot of people like myself really enjoyed the film to the point that my friend Alicia, this is her favorite Halloween film, which I do see her point because you know when we thought that Laurie died, but she faked her death, and Michael coming back after 20 years, coming after her in a different town in Los Angeles, where she changes her name and her and identity, kind of blaming that lie, but eventually your demons come back to haunt you. The only thing I didn't like about Halloween H2O was that you can actually see Michael's eyes, when every time he's just like this. Like what the fuck? Like the whole point of the mask is that you cannot see the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes, but you actually see that all the time Michael just king like, which I'm like I can't. That's kind of stupid to think about it, but regardless, that's like the only criticism about I have about H2O. It is a great film, a film that even though has J. Cool, kind of fits the story in my personal opinion, but you know, it's a film that I go religiously watch every year, and it's a film that a lot of people have grown in love to the point, like I said, my friend Alicia has it at her number one, which says a lot about the film. And number two, we have Halloween 4: The Return of Michael Myers. For the longest time, this is one of my least favorite films in the franchise. As time went by, I began to love the film much and much and much more. Basically, what Halloween Kills tried to do with the ride, Halloween 4 did it better. And of course, the ending, one of the most famous endings in the franchise, when you see Jamie killing her, I think her stepmother or foster parent with scissors, and you see that infamous scene with her carrying, the sisters with the clown costume and Loomis being petrified. He's like, no, the evil like kind of went into her, and I wish that you know Halloween 5 would have been kind of the same tone, but not really. But it is a film, and like I mentioned before, Rachel, one of the greatest, next to maybe Laurie in terms of like famous last girls, and but regardless, Halloween 4 at number two. And of course, at number one, we have Halloween, the original 1978 version. One more can I say about this film that hasn't been said before. One of the most impactful films in horror, one of the most famous films in horror, a landmarking film, a film that was made for under $300,000 in budget or under budget, and grew up to portray this entire franchise into the stratosphere and make it what it is today. I mean, Michael Myers. What more can I say? I mean, hello, have the Funko Pop, but and that poster, that Halloween poster, it is one of the greatest horror posters of all time. The film is great. Everything about it is great, and that was the reasons. And one of the most iconic films in horror, and one of the reasons I have it at my number one. And that does it for the video, guys. And that does it for the series. And like I said before, I cannot thank you guys so much for going to the entire series with me from the very beginning, from the to the very end, guys. And I'm thankful for you guys who like the video, subscribe, everything about it. And the future is bright with this franchise, and of course the series. I enjoy doing all the videos, and like I said, guys, thank you guys so much for watching the entire series from day one to right now. Which you haven't seen any of the videos, go watch them. And like I said, guys, stay safe, everyone. Happy Halloween, and until next time, stay metal.